Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope that you are doing really well in this moment in time, no matter where you are in the world or when you are in the world in the moment that you hear this. I hope that you're remembering to include as many superfoods in your diet as you possibly can. Now, I have been taking Moringa Oliefera. Yesterday, I accidentally said Moringa officinalis. It's actually Moringa Oliefera. I was getting it confused with other plants. I've studied plants and herbs my whole life, well, adult life. And Moringa, I have been taking that for on and off for 10 years. I've forgotten about it the past few years, though, since I moved to South America, which is ironic because these plants grow here. It's also called the drumstick tree. I don't know why. Does it represent a chicken drumstick, or do you make drumsticks to play your drums? I don't know. I'm a little confused on that right now. But I started looking into it because I was looking at this. I bought this for about $3 yesterday. It has 26 servings, so roughly it lasts about 3 weeks, okay? So $1 a week, that's not bad. Not bad at all. But then what's funny is I saw it, I was like, oh, Moringa, that means miracle, right? That's a miracle tree. It's a miracle plant. So I told my son, we're going to get this and we're going to eat this. This is really good. So I bought it, or I put it in the cart, and then I was like looking around and I couldn't find a decent mineral supplement. And you know what? It doesn't matter because I did. Moringa is an excellent mineral supplement. So I wanted to tell you guys what Moringa leaves do. I mean, it would be like a 2-hour show to tell you what every part of the plant does. It's that good. All right. But if you have the powdered leaves, the polvo de Moringa, it says on my package, but it just say Moringa powder. It is a superfood. Moringa leaves treat asthma, hyperglycemia, which is diabetes, actually, dyslipidemia, which I think might possibly mean fatty liver. I don't know why they don't say that, but it does take away it shrinks fat cells by literally releasing fat out of the body. It is a fat reducer. Maybe that's what it means. It helps flu. It helps heartburn. It will help you if you have syphilis. You know who could have used this? Vincent van Gogh. But I digress. Also, it helps malaria, pneumonia, diarrhea, headaches, scurvy. Arg. Okay, I just assume all pirates have scurvy. Skin diseases, bronchitis, eye and ear infections, and it reduces blood pressure, reduces cholesterol. It is also an anti-cancer, antimicrobial, antioxidant, anti-diabetic, and anti-arteriosclerosis. And it protects your nerves as a neuroprotectant, which I have never heard that word in my life. The nutritive properties of this it's incredible. It's got obviously fiber like every other plant on the planet, but it also contains fat proteins, and that includes omega-3 and omega-6 complete, all of them. Now, I don't see it containing, omega-9s, which is like from, hemp, actually, if you just eat cannabis. I prefer to eat it. That's where you get your omega-9s, 3, 6, and 9. That's the most complete as far as the omegas go is cannabis, but which it is a superfood, ironically enough, and also gets you high. So, woohoo, double bonus. Moringa does not get you high, although it does contain alkaloids. Now, what if I smoke it? Okay, I'm not going to smoke it. No, never mind. Okay. Anyway, it contains fat proteins and minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, K, whatever the hell that is, mineral K. I told you guys about this before and I already forgot. Has copper and iron and sulfur. Has vitamins like vitamin A, beta carotene, vitamin B, choline, vitamin B1, thiamine, riboflavin, nicotinic acid. Is that what you get when you smoke cigarettes or eat tobacco leaves? I never heard of that before. Ascorbic acid, quercetin, amino acids. It's got like 9 amino acids and a whole bunch more that are not supposedly not really needed in the human body, but the 9 that you really need. It's got phytochemicals, tannins, sterols, saponins, terpenoids. I think they're just making these words up. Phenolics, alkaloids, and flavonoids like quercetin, which I already mentioned, makes you queer. Just kidding. It doesn't really. It's very, very good for your immune system. Anyway, on and on and on it goes. I'm not going to keep reading their things that they made up. Anyway, the root bark of this plant actually also contains morphine. This is a natural pain reliever and inflammation reducer. And it does have magnesium and sodium and all that good stuff. I'm blown away by this plant. I knew about it before and I had looked into it before. I used to sell a juice called Zija. I was a part of the company that sold Zija. And it's one of the best companies ever, but it was $200 a month to have, I think it was 60 of these little tiny treetop apple cans full of the moringa leaves. I believe it was mixed with pineapple juice because the more I look into it, and I looked on the back of this, what I bought yesterday, and they recommend you mix it with pineapple juice because it probably enhances the flavor of everything and brings out all the nutrients. They just say mix it with a little bit of pineapple and some, also a little bit of honey to taste. I don't think you need it though. Pineapple juice is awfully sweet. If you get a maduro, a mature pineapple, they're always more sweet. If you get a non-mature pineapple, then, you know, we have in this country a lot of different kinds of pineapples. So I just get fresh pineapple, but you could just go get a can of Dole, you know, and immediately if you open it, you got to pour it into a glass container with a lid because anything that you leave open in a can is just, it gets really bad. It like leaches the metal into it's just really gross. And pineapple's just super powerful, but you know, you could do that. You could just add a couple pineapple slices, a cup of water, and probably a tablespoon of moringa, mix it up and just drink it down like a smoothie. Why not? So basically, it's very good for your eyes. It's good for your brain. It's good for your skin and blood vessels. It'll increase your skin elasticity. It protects your cells against oxidative stress. All kinds of stuff. It's good for your heart. It's good for your muscles. Kind of unravels some of the inflammation and tension in your muscles. It has a lot of iron. I'm blown away by this. Let me see. It has, but check this out. 4 times the protein of eggs, 9 times the protein of yogurt, 10 times the protein of the protein of, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. Cut, take 32. 10 times the vitamin A of carrots, 15 times the potassium of bananas, 17 times more calcium than milk, and 25 times more iron than spinach. It is the most nutrient-dense green on the planet. And it goes back at people in Egypt, ancient Egypt and ancient Greece used to use this plant. And it's kind of weird. It's like we somehow forgot it and then suddenly, boom, rediscovered. It is an energy booster along with, as I already mentioned, immune booster. It is a plant-based protein, but in a tablespoon, you're only going to get like 2 grams of protein. So it's not, you have to have a lot to have your daily requirement. So don't do it for the protein, do it just for, and plus, when it comes to plant protein, your body only absorbs like a third of it anyway, so don't take this for the protein content. Take it instead for the vitamins and minerals and all the other stuff that it provides. It does increase mental acuity and heart health, which I already mentioned, and it is a weight management tool. It will absolutely help you lose weight because it also helps you get rid of toxins. And remember, we talked about this before, when you are able to get your cells to release toxic or toxins in the cells, the fat automatically goes with it, because what is fat? But it is a protector, and it's an insulator to insulate your body from the toxins in your cells, and that's why you gain fat. That's why anyone gets fat. It's because they ate something or they were exposed to toxins. I mean, what if you eat healthy, but you're in an area where you're breathing in bus exhaust all day long? That could possibly make you fat. Because your body, if it can't get rid of those toxins, it's going to put it in your fat cells, and it's going to surround it with extra fat to have an insulated layer so that you don't get sick from the toxins. Our bodies are very clever. Our bodies do not get fat because they want to be fat. They get fat because we're exposed to toxins that the body just doesn't want, can't handle, can't get rid of, unless you take something that will force that out of the cell. So if you did something that forced your body to lose fat, the toxins go automatically with it. And if you take something and release the toxins, the fat goes automatically with it. Either way. So you could, there's two ways to get rid of fat, and those are the two ways. So basically this thing, it's 24% protein. It's like pretty cool. And the vitamins A, B1, B2, B3, B6, B7, vitamin C, full spectrum with all the bioflavonoids, vitamin D, vitamin E, and again, vitamin K, whatever the hell that is. I'm just kidding. I know that vitamin K does help you if you have bipolar disorder. So this does help everything to do with your mind, mental stress, as well as poor mental health that's caused by nutritional lack or by too much in your food, like toxins. So this is literally one of the most nutrient-rich plants globally. I wanted to talk about it. You can get it in India, the Himalayas, I think it grows in. It grows in Africa. It grows in Ecuador. It does grow around the world, and you could get it. You just get a supplement, if you want to just probably go to your local health food store, or maybe go to Amazon, or maybe even eBay might be a better deal. You might get a better deal on eBay. I don't know anymore. But just, order this or just go buy some. If you're in a place where it grows, just go grab a handful, and pop it in a blender with some water. And if you're trying to lose weight, add half a juice of a lemon and a tablespoon of honey, or to taste with the honey. And honey is a natural antibiotic, as well as anti-inflammatory as well. It also contains minerals and vitamins. So if you just did that every day before breakfast, or half hour after you eat in the morning or afternoon, it'll help you lose weight. It's really good stuff. So I just wanted to bring it up because, oh my God, I'm so excited about it. And obviously I make absolutely zero money if you go and order it or buy it, but it's funny. I tried to tell you guys about this yesterday, what I could remember, and I forgot that the word Moringa means miracle. And it's funny because all these people that were starving in Africa, they just were, starving, and they thought the old people were kind of weird, pulling leaves off a tree, making a tea out of it, but whatever. It was just kind of like whatever. And when scientists went in and discovered what was going on, that all these people were ignoring that God was providing them food all along. And they started eating the Moringa plants, and they all got extremely healthy. Blindness, diabetes, all these conditions were reversed completely after a couple months of taking the Moringa every single day. So, I don't know. I wanted to get to about what happened with Nyata yesterday after we finished the show. He and I talked for a few more minutes, and then he gave me a really big hug and said thank you for talking about my culture. He really appreciated it, and so did I. I mean, I'm like, this is like one of the coolest episodes I ever did. So if you haven't listened to it already, go back and check it out. And it was just cool. It was really neat to talk to, a pre-Incan warrior like that. Like, what? It's so interesting. But I released him to the light, and what my friend Cheryl had told me, that people will pop their heads in and say hello from the portal when you open it up. And my mom said hi to me. My Aunt Titi said hello to me. It was so cool to hear from both of them. I think my grandma was there too, and I was just like, hey guys. And they're like, we'll see you soon. And then they said, oh wait, not too soon. In your time, it's a long time. But for us, it's soon. I'm like, thank you guys. I love you. But I was able to watch as Nyata found his family and tribal people who had passed before him and who were up there now. A lot of people probably had been reincarnated, but he was able to find his people that were still there. And then I closed up the portal and asked, and I had no more spirits. So am I spirit free now? Yes. Is there any spirits here? No. Okay, good. Muscle testing. I am spirit free. And my son wanted to surprise me today, and he cleaned the kitchen floor and all of the floors in the living room and the hallway. And it was really messy, like really dirty. And he was like, I want it clean. I want it really clean. And he worked on it for hours. He did such an amazing job. I'm like, oh my God, he totally surprised me. I was so happy. He's like, that's it. And then he says, you didn't clean your bedroom floor, so your room is contaminated. Oh my God. I'm like, okay. He's like, do you know that if two people do an activity together, Mom, that even if it's a non-fun activity such as cleaning, that helps them to bond? I'm like, I'll do the dishes while you finish the floor. And he's like, no, you won't. And I'm like, why? And he goes, I already did the dishes, Mom. Oh my God. Once in a while he surprises me like this, and I'm like, oh, thank God. I mean, we're talking about a kid who he'll take a glass, drink some water. Now it's a dirty glass. When he needs water, he gets another glass. And over the course of a day, if I'm asleep, if I'm like in bed because I'm in pain, which I've had a lot of days like that lately, I'll get up and there's all the cups, all the glasses, they've all been used. Like, he's one person, but he could go through 20 or 30 cups in like a day or two. It's like, oh my God, it's exhausting sometimes. Like, just clean the one you used and then reuse it, And he's only now really starting to be very, very aware of germ theory, like his whole life. He'd be like eating candy off the floor, just, when he was younger, very, very young. And now he's like, you know what? I saw a couple of videos on YouTube and I'm really freaked out about germs now. Like, okay, well, your brother and I were telling you this for years, but okay, you didn't believe us. But we were talking about the other day, his older brother told him when he was very young and susceptible to believing his older brother, he saw like a group of gnats flying around in a circle, how they do. The little teeny tiny flies or gnats or whatever they were, and I don't know why this happens. It's a phenomenon that happens at least in California, maybe all over the world, I don't know, but I've never seen it happen here. But where suddenly they're like in a circle, and it's like a swarm of like 200 or 300 gnats in a teeny tiny area the size of like a basketball. It's really crazy. Anyway, we were talking about the other day, and we started laughing about it because his older brother, like he started looking. He's like, look at this. This is so weird. And he's like trying to put his finger in the gnats, and his brother said, don't touch that. And he's like, why not? And he goes, because that's malaria. And he's like, oh my God. And he goes, what's malaria? And he's like, oh, it's a terrible disease. You'll totally die from it. And he didn't want any of the gnats to follow him into the car. We were trying to get in the car or something. And he just looked at me. He's like, "Shh, Mom, don't tell, right?" And I was like, "Oh, you can't keep this up." And he's like, "I can." And then every time he saw a ball of gnats, he would be like, "Oh my God, watch out for the malaria, Mom." I mean, it took years before my oldest finally said, "Look, that's not how you get malaria. That's not even what malaria is. That's just like, gnats." But I didn't want you to touch them because they probably also do have germs. So I'm just like, oh my God. It's like, this is something you have to admit to him. I don't want to, rat you out that you're just messing with his head. Come on. And I agree that he shouldn't just touch random insects. I don't think anyone should touch random insects. I'm just saying. Virgo me just says no. Malaria. Oh my God. I remember that made me laugh so hard. And I was just like, why are you telling him that? And he's like, shh, don't tell him. It's like, because I don't want him to touch bugs. I want him to be safe. I'm like, all right, let's just keep that one up for a minute. But my husband and I raised our kids to think for themselves. And one way we did that was to say outrageously crazy things and watch them figure it out for themselves that we lied to them. And we said, we will always tell you the truth, but sometimes we'll tell you something that's not. Like, for example, the giant lollipops at this one store. It's like they have these lollipops. They're like literally bigger than your head. And we told them, stay away from them because they're candy for Giants kids, and the Giants kids are as big as this warehouse, and you don't want to get on the bad side of a giant. And it was only because we didn't want them to eat so much candy, and we didn't want them to ask us for it. They're like, oh my God, look at this enormous Hershey's Kiss. It's like for giants. We're like, yeah, we probably shouldn't touch that. And they're like, but are there really giants? Shh, they'll hear you with their giant ears. So, but that was one thing that we did to make sure that our children were always able to think for themselves, because if they question us as authority, they're going to always question authority. And I always felt like that was probably a good thing. For example, the authorities in parts of Detroit have said the water was okay to drink, and half the people in the town have Legionnaire's disease now, for example. So when authority or someone pretends to be an authority over you and they try to tell you, oh yeah, that's fine, sure, that's good. And then next thing you know, you've got cancer or, an extra limb or something, you probably couldn't have trusted them. So anyway, I've taught my kids to always question everything and always look into the science of everything and look at the studies and see how the studies were made, because studies can even be liars. You can't always see how a study was conducted. If they say, in this study, every single person got cancer, and then there's only 3 people in the study. Well, maybe they got cancer because they're from the same area and drank the damn water. So I taught my kids, like, a good study has a minimum of 1,000 people. If it has 10,000 people in it, it's better. We have to make sure there was no bias on the part of the researchers. We have to make sure there wasn't another explanation, because every couple of years there's a new study saying, oh, coffee is super good for you. It does this, this, and this. And then all of a sudden there's a counter study. Coffee is really bad for you. It does this, this, and this. But no one ever explains how the coffee is made. Is it organic? Is it ground directly after you roasted it in your own house? Or are they talking about freeze-dried roasted coffee that was, freeze-dried 10 years ago and sitting on a grocery store shelf and God knows how long it is, how long it's been? It's like, what kind of coffee are you discussing here? Are we talking about coffee that was shade grown and organic without pesticides or GMOs? Or are we talking about stuff that was like not benefited by the vibration and frequency of the songs of the songbirds? There's a lot to do with it. There's a lot to do with coffee. There's a lot of factors. Was it grown at elevation 3,000 feet and, has a lot of pesticides used on it because there's more bugs at 3,000 feet elevation above sea level? Or was it grown at 5,000 feet? So I taught my kids to think really, really critically about everything. It probably drives everyone around them crazy because they're very, very much critical. And they're always trying to see outside the box and try to look at a problem from every single angle. And I think, it's caused a lot of arguments in our family because we start arguing about, well, what about this? What about that factor? What about it? But I always wanted them to question authority in the way that they would think for themselves. A gnat ball is not malaria. Shouldn't be your only takeaway, but make sure you take that one away. It's not true. Do gnats contain malaria? No, usually it's mosquitoes. All right. According to disclosurenews.it, the 1700 report, they only had one. Today we returned to a condition of very light activity. There were only 2 movements that exceeded power 10. One was 16 Hertz frequency at 6 UTC and 11 Hertz frequency at 11 UTC. So basically only 16. And as far as heartmath.org is concerned, yet once again, they are saying the data is unavailable temporarily. So blah, whatever. All right. We are in the Foundation of Inner Peace lessons, A Course in Miracle lessons, acim.org. We are now today on lesson 161, and this is the lesson. This is the main idea or thought. Give me your blessing, Holy Son of God. Give me your blessing, Holy Son of God. Today we practice differently and take a stand against our anger, that our fears may disappear and offer room to love. Here is salvation in the simple words in which we practice with today's idea. Here is the answer to temptation which can never fail to welcome in the Christ where fear and anger had prevailed before. Here is atonement, or at-one-ment, made complete. The world passed safely by, and heaven is now restored. Here is the answer of the voice for God. Now, if you want to read the rest of this, go to lesson 161. This is in A Course in Miracles. You could download an app for free. They don't take up much space either. It's just like a big book, basically. And it's also available at acim.org. And if you want, I think there might be, not really sure, but I think there might be people who read A Course in Miracles, the full lesson on a podcast. So I was possibly thinking about doing this myself next year, but we'll see. I may or may not do it, like starting the second podcast for that. I've been wanting to start my travel podcast as well, but it's not going to be a 2-hour daily. It'd be like a once a week thing. But I might call it Armchair Traveler. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still thinking about it. But anyway, give me your blessing, Holy Son of God. Now, Son, S-O-N, with a capital S, means the whole body of God. Basically, all of us. We are the Son of God. Basically is what it means in this book. It's the context he means it. And when he says Christ, he doesn't mean you have to be Christian. He means that Christ is the energy, the Christ consciousness. So we have to welcome in the Christ, and he means the Christ consciousness. Jesus did not have a last name of Christ. He was the title of the Christ. He was the highest Christed consciousness master, avatar, ever to walk the earth, period. He did not start Christianity, so if you believe in him, it doesn't mean you have to become a Christian. Christianity started 200 years after his, I would say disappearance, ascension, disappearance, not really his death. because he did go to, I don't know, I honestly don't believe he ever died, just like Mahavatar Babaji. I feel like he probably just, he moved to France. He had a wife. Mary Magdalene was his wife. They had some daughters, and they ended up, I don't even know what else, but I know they ended up happy in another country, and then eventually he probably just ascended without dying, maybe, because he had power over the life-death thing, obviously, if the crucifixion is real, and he came back to life after that. But anyway, I didn't, for those of you that where the Christian thing left a bad taste in your mouth from bad childhood memories, if you're ever molested by a priest or some crap like that, when I read these, I don't want you to think of it as Christian or Catholic, because it's not. It's Jesus talking from who he was and what his name became in the world. So he's trying to undo and unravel a lot of erroneous ideas through these lessons. He spoke through a Jewish woman. She wasn't Jewish, but her family was, and she was raised Jewish, but she became a scientist and didn't believe in God at all. And one day she sat down to write a book, and all of a sudden, basically Brother Yeshua channeled through her and created A Course in Miracles. So pretty cool. And it shocked her, and she felt his presence with her, and she was like, wow, I didn't even think he was real. Now I know he was. He definitely was. I remember. I mean, I was there. I knew him. I'm grateful for it too, having those memories now. Didn't have him my whole life, but he always walked with me. And the Christ consciousness is something we can all attain to. Now that we're ascended into the fifth dimension, we could just keep going. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, today is the next part that we are reading in the Spirits book by Allan Kardec. It's a 162-year-old manuscript that was published in Paris, France in 1857. So when I come back, right after these messages, that's what we're going to do. Get into the Spirits book, get into the next section of it right after this. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you. The Spirits book Part 10 by Allan Kardec. This book was written in 1857, as I said a little bit ago. So it's about 162 years old. Allan Kardec was not his real name, as I've mentioned in past weeks. He was Allan Kardec when he was a druid. That was his name. But in Paris, he had a different name. I forget. Is it Leon Rael or something? I said it in one of the first episodes, but that was like 2 months ago. I can't remember what it was now. But see the movie Kardec if you haven't seen it. It's on Netflix right now, and it's worth it. And what I'm reading to you tonight is the book that movie was about, even though totally different things. It was just about his life, but it was very interesting. So I think you guys would like it. Okay, we're on question 367. This is in the part of the chapter called Influence of Organism. Question 367. Does a spirit, in uniting itself with a body, identify itself with matter? The spirit's answer. Matter is only the envelope of the spirit, as clothing is the envelope of the body. A spirit, in uniting himself with the body, retains the attributes of his spiritual nature. Question 368. Does a spirit exercise his faculties in full freedom after his union with a body? The spirit's answer. The exercise of faculties depends on the organs which serve them for instruments. Their exercise is weakened by the grossness of matter. Follow-up question. It would appear then that the material envelope is an obstacle to the free manifestation of a spirit's faculties, as the opacity of ground glass is an obstacle to the free emission of light? And the spirit's answer, yes, an obstacle which is exceedingly opaque. All right, so what Allan Kardec writes as a comment, he says, the action exercised upon a spirit by the gross matter of his body may also be compared to that of muddy water, impeding the movements of the objects plunged into it. Okay. All right. Question 369. Is the free exercise of a spirit's faculties subordinated during his incarnation to the development of his corporeal organs? The spirit's answer. Those organs are the soul's instruments for the manifestation of its faculties. That manifestation is, therefore, necessarily subordinated to the degree of development and perfection of those organs, as the perfection of a piece of manual work depends on the goodness of the tool employed. Question 370. May we, from the influence of the corporeal organs, infer a connection between the development of the cerebral organs and that of the moral and intellectual faculties? The spirits say, do not confound effect and cause. A spirit always possesses the faculties that belong to him. But you must remember that it is not the organs that give the faculties, but the faculties that incite to the development of the organs. And the follow-up question. According to this view of the subject, the diversity of aptitudes in each man depends solely on the state of his spirit? The spirit's answer. To say that it does so solely would not be altogether correct. The qualities of the incarnated spirit are undoubtedly the determining principle of those aptitudes. But allowance must be made for the influence of matter, which hinders every man, more or less, in the exercise of the faculties inherent in his soul. So what Allan Kardec's commentary on that is, a spirit, in incarnating himself, brings with him certain characterial predispositions. Therefore, if we admit the existence for each of these of a special organ in the brain, the Oh, I'm sorry, the punctuation is atrocious in this. For each of these of a special organ, no period. And then says, in the brain, period. A special organ in the brain? But then it says the development. Oh my God, this is like ridiculous. I'm going to try to read it the way that I think it was meant to be written, because the punctuation is really bad on this. If we admit the existence for each of these of a special organ, in the brain, the development of the cerebral organs is seen to be an effect and not a cause. If his faculties were a result of his bodily organs, man would be a mere machine without free will and would not be responsible for his actions. Moreover, if such were the case, we should be forced to admit that the greatest genius men of science, poets, artists, are only such because a lucky chance has given them certain special organs, whence it would follow still further that, but for the chance acquisition of those organs, they would not have been geniuses, and that the stupidest of men might have been a Newton, a Virgil, my son's name. We were just talking about Virgil Earp like 5 minutes ago. Weird. Okay, anyway, a Newton, a Virgil, or a Raphael. If he had been provided with certain organs, a supposition still more flagrantly absurd if we attempt to apply it to the explanation of the moral qualities. For according to the system, St. Vincent de Paul, had he been gifted by nature with such and such an organ, might have been a scoundrel, and the greatest scoundrel alive. Well, we all have to aim for something, right? And had he only been gifted with an organ of an opposite nature, might have been a St. Vincent de Paul. If, on the contrary, we admit that our special organs, supposing such to exist, are an effect and not a cause, that they are developed by the exercise of the faculties to which they correspond, as muscles are developed by movement, we arrive at a theory which is certainly not irrational. Let us employ an illustration equally conclusive and commonplace. By certain physiognomic signs, we recognize a man who's addicted to drink. Is it those signs that make him a drunkard, or is it his drunkenness that produces those signs? It may be safely asserted that our organs are a consequence of our faculties. So our souls are drunk? Is that what they mean? Oh, I don't know about that. Well, that leads us right into this is like a really nice segue. Idiocy and madness. Okay. Question 371. Are there any foundation for the common belief? Is there any foundation for the common belief that the souls of idiots are of a nature inferior to those of others? And the spirits say no. They have a human soul, which is often more intelligent than you suppose, and which suffers acutely from the insufficiency of its means of communication, as a dumb man suffers from his inability to speak. I think these things mean different things from 162 years ago as opposed to now when we use these words, but okay, moving right along. Question 372. What is the aim of providence in creating beings so ill-treated by nature as idiots? Okay, idiots are, the spirits say, idiots are incarnations of spirits who are undergoing punishment and who suffer from the constraint they experience and from their inability to manifest themselves by means of organs which are undeveloped or out of order. Out of order. I just saw like a little post or like a board, on someone's brain says out of order. When they do an x-ray, like a cartoon. What is he talking about? Idiots, like people that are just not that smart? Or I'm going to tell you guys something right now. My ex and I had a conversation one day about people that have Down syndrome, like a very low IQ, and they have something really messed up in their chromosome. And I asked him, does he know a spiritual explanation for this? And Grandma Marion told him, because he had asked her a long time ago, long time ago now. And she said, sometimes they are masters, highly advanced masters of light in a body that would allow them to be invisible, or that people would shy away from, so they don't have to answer any questions. That way they can observe humanity and project love out into the world in a way that won't be suspect. And if you've ever met someone with Down syndrome, generally, I mean, I've met a lot of people with Down syndrome, and they're sweeter, they're more loving, the ones I met anyway, the people with that disease. And I wonder about that. Like, maybe they are actually spiritual masters for real. Maybe all of them are, It might just be that they just decided to come and live a very simple life where people take care of them, so that all they have to do is project love and light out into the world. So I don't think it's a spiritual punishment. And I don't know if that's what they mean by idiots, because I think that would be rude. But 162 years ago, ain't nobody woke in 1862, okay, or 1857, okay? So I'm just thinking, I don't know, I hope you guys don't take any, please don't take any offense to the way that he's wording it, or the way I'm explaining it, just in case. I'm trying to explain it. I think that sometimes people that have an undeveloped mental capacity probably have a highly developed soul. It takes a special kind of soul to come into such a limited capacity life. And I think a lot of it is an experiment, to test people's judgment and stuff. Anyway. So they said undeveloped or out of order. And the follow-up question is, then it is not correct to say that the organs are without influence upon faculties? And the spirits say, we have never said that organs are without influence. They have very great influence on the manifestation of faculties, but they do not give faculties, and there is the difference. A skillful player will not make good music with a bad instrument, but that will not prevent his being a good player. All right. Okay, so Allan Kardec has a comment. He says, it's necessary to distinguish between the normal state and the pathologic state. In the normal state, the moral strength of an incarnated spirit enables him to triumph over the obstacles which are placed in his way by matter, but there are cases in which matter opposes a resistance so powerful that the manifestations of the spirit incarnated in it are hindered or changed from what he intended, as in idiocy and madness. These cases are pathological, and as the soul in such states is not in the enjoyment of its full liberty, human law itself exempts such persons from the responsibility of their actions. Okay, question 373. What merit can there be in the existence of beings who, like idiots, can do neither good nor evil and therefore cannot progress? They say, such an existence is imposed as an expiation of the abuse which the spirit has made of certain faculties. It constitutes a pause in his career. I'm going to ask the Great Spirit, when I connect with you, is this true completely? No. He's saying no. Is it true in some cases? Yes, it is. So is it true in all cases? No, it is not. So is like 50% of the cases a punishment? Is less than 50, less than 30, less than 20, less than 15, less than 10, more than 10? So 10% of all cases of madness or idiocy is a punishment, and then the rest, is it spiritual masters? Just people that want that experience, basically. So, all right. And may I ask how many percentage of those are spiritual masters in disguise? More than 10%? Less than 10%? 10%. So 10% are punishments, 10% are spiritual masters in disguise, 80% are just people that wanted that kind of an experience. And God's saying sometimes they deserved it, or they felt they deserved it because of maybe making fun of people with those infirmities before, maybe being a bully or whatever, or even being abusers that will come back like that. So that's what he just said. All right, let's get back to the book. Follow-up question. The body of an idiot may then contain a spirit that has animated a man of genius in a preceding existence. And the spirit say, yes, genius sometimes becomes a scourge when it is abused. So Allan Kardec follows up with, intellectual superiority is not always accompanied by an equal degree of moral superiority. And the greatest geniuses may have much to expiate, and for this reason they often have to undergo an existence inferior to the one they have previously accomplished, which is a cause of suffering for them, the hindrances to the manifestation of his faculties thus imposed upon a spirit being like chains that fetter the movements of a vigorous man. The idiot may be said to be lame in the brain, as the halt is lame in the legs. What? The halt? H-A-L-T, but I think it's a typo, but as is the halt is lame in the legs and the blind in the eyes. Halt? We just call people that are lame or lame in the legs or lamers. Oh my God, that's so lame. Oh my God. Halt? I've never heard that ever. That went out of fashion 150 years ago. All right. 374. Question 374. Is the idiot in the spirit state conscious of his mental condition? And the answer of the spirits, yes, very often. He comprehends that the chains which hinder his actions are a trial and an expiation. Oh, that would suck. Totally. Okay. Question 375. When a man is mad, what is the state of his spirit? By mad, I think he means insane, crazy, not actually angry or upset. The spirit's answer. A spirit in the state of freedom receives his impressions directly and exerts his action directly upon matter. But when incarnated, he is in an altogether different condition and compelled to act only through the instrumentality of special organs. If some or all of those organs are injured, his actions or his impressions, as far as those organs are concerned, are interrupted. If he loses his eyes, he becomes blind. If he loses his hearing, he becomes deaf, and so on. Suppose that the organ which presides over manifestations of intelligence and of will is partially or entirely weakened or modified in its action, and you will easily understand that the spirit, having at his service only organs that are incomplete or diverted from their proper action, must experience a functional perturbation of which he is perfectly conscious, but not able to arrest the course of. All right. And then follow up. Is it then always the body and not the spirit that's disorganized? And the spirits say, yes, but you must not forget that just as the spirit acts upon matter, matter to a certain extent reacts upon him, and that he may therefore find himself for the time being subjected to the influence of the false impressions consequent on the vitiated state of his organs and perception and of action. And it may happen when this mental aberration has continued for a long time that the repetition of the same perverted action may exercise upon a spirit an influence from which he is only delivered after his complete separation from all material impressions. Question 376. How is it that madness sometimes leads to suicide? And the spirits say, in such cases, the spirit suffers from the constraint which he feels and from his inability to manifest himself freely, and therefore he seeks death as a means of breaking his chains. Question 377. Does the spirit of a madman continue to feel after death the derangement from which he suffered in his corporeal life? The spirits say he may continue to feel it for some time after death until he's completely freed from matter, just as a man on waking continues to feel for some little time the confusion in which he has been plunged by sleep. Question 378. How can brain disease act upon a spirit after his death? The spirits say, it is an effect of remembrance which weighs like a burden upon the spirit, and as he was not aware of all that took place during his madness, he always needs a certain amount of time for recovering the hang of his ideas. It is for this reason that the continuance of his uneasiness after death is always proportioned to the longer or shorter continuance of the corporeal insanity from which he has previously suffered. A spirit, when freed from the body, still feels for a longer or shorter time the impression of the links that united him with it. Okay, now we are to the part called infancy. So, question 379. Is the spirit who animates the body of a child as developed as that of an adult? And the spirits say, he may be more so. If before reincarnating himself he had progressed farther, it is only the imperfection of his organs that prevents him from manifesting himself. He acts according to the state of the instrument by which alone, when incarnated, he can manifest himself. Oh, he can manifest himself. Sorry. Question 380. During the infancy of his body and without reference to the obstacle opposed to his free manifestation by the imperfection of his organs, does the spirit think as a child or as an adult? Interesting. And the spirits answer, while he remains a child, it's evident that his organs of thought not being developed cannot give him all the intuition of an adult. His range of intellect is therefore only narrow, until increasing age has ripened his reason. The confusion which accompanies incarnation doesn't cease all at once at the moment of birth. It is only dissipated gradually with the development of the bodily organs. So Allan Kardec says, as a comment after that, the observation of a fact of human life furnishes us with the confirmation of the preceding reply, vis-a-vis that the dreams of childhood have not the character of those of adult age. Their object is almost always childish in characteristic indication of the nature of a spirit's thoughts during the infancy of his organs. Question 381. At the death of a child, does its spirit at once regain his former vigor? The spirits answer, he should do so since he's freed from his fleshly envelope, but in point of fact, he only regains his former lucidity when the separation is complete. That is to say, when there is no longer any connection between the spirit and the body. Question 382. Does the incarnated spirit suffer during the state of childhood from the constraint imposed on him by the imperfections of his organs? The spirits answer, no, that state is a necessity. It is a part of the ordination of nature and of the providential plan. It constitutes a time of repose for the spirit. Okay, question 383. What is the use for a spirit of passing through the state of infancy? The spirits answer, the aim of incarnation is the improvement of the spirit subjected to it, and the spirit is more accessible during childhood to the impressions he receives, and which may conduce to his advancement, the end to which all those who are entrusted with his education should contribute. Question 384. Why is it that the infant's first utterances are those of weeping? Because the doctor holds them upside down by their ankles and slaps them on the ass? Actually, my kids didn't cry, and that didn't happen to them. But that's how it used to be 162 years ago. All right, sorry. The spirits answer that. It is in order to excite the mother's interest on his behalf and to ensure to him the care he needs. Can you not understand that if a child, before he is able to speak, uttered only cries of joy, those around him would trouble themselves very little about what he wants? In all these arrangements, admire the wisdom of Providence. Question 385. Whence comes the change which occurs in the character of the young on the approach of manhood? Is it the spirit that becomes modified? Okay, and the spirit's answer. The spirit, regaining possession of himself, shows himself such as he was before his incarnation. You know not the secrets hidden under the seeming innocence of children. You know neither what they are, nor what they have been, nor what they will be, and nevertheless you love and cherish them as though they were part of yourselves, and to such a degree that the love of a mother for her children is reputed to be the greatest love that one being can have for another. Whence comes the sweet affection, the tender benevolence that even strangers feel for a child? Do you know of its origin? No, but I will now explain it to you. Children are beings sent by God into new existences, and in order that they may not be able to reproach him with having been unduly severe to them, he gives them all the external appearances of innocence. Even in the case of a child of the worst possible nature, its misdeeds are covered by its unconsciousness of the quality of its acts. This apparent innocence doesn't constitute for children any real superiority over what they previously were. It's merely the image of what they ought to be, and if they are not such, it will be on themselves alone that the punishment will fall. But it is not merely for themselves that God has given to children this appearance of innocence. It is given to them also, and especially in view of their parents, whose love is so necessary to them in their weakness. For this love would be greatly diminished by the sight of a harsh or cross-grained nature, whereas, believing their children to be good and gentle, they give them all their affection and surround them with the most minute and delicate care. But when children no longer need this protection, this assistance, which has been given them during 15 or 20 years, their real character and individuality appears in all its nudity. He who is really good remains good, but even then his character reveals many traits and shades that were hidden during his earlier years. You see that God's ways are always for the best, that for the pure in heart they are easily explicable. Get it well into your minds that the spirit of a child who is born among you may have come from a world in which he has acquired habits totally different from yours. How would it be possible for this new being coming among you with passions, inclinations, tastes entirely opposed to yours to accommodate himself to your world? If he came among you in any other way than in that which has been ordained by God, that is to say, by passing through the sieve of infancy, it is through this sifting process of infancy that all the thoughts, all the characteristics, all the varieties of beings engendered by the crowd of worlds in which creatures pursue the work of growth are eventually mingled. And you also, on dying, find yourselves in a sort of infancy, and in the midst of a new family of brothers, and in your new non-terrestrial existence, you are ignorant of the habits, manners, relations of a world which is new to you, and you find it difficult to express yourselves in a language which you are not accustomed to employ, a language more living than is your thought today. Childhood possesses yet another utility. Spirits only enter into corporeal life in order to effect their improvement, their self-amelioration. The weakness of corporeal youth tends to render them more pliable, more amenable to the counsels of those who experience should aid their progress. It is thus that evil tendencies are repressed and faulty characters are gradually reformed, and this repression and reformation constitute the duty confided by God to those who assume the parental relation, a sacred mission of which parents will have to render a solemn account to him. You see, therefore, that childhood is not only useful, necessary, indispensable, but that it is moreover the natural result of the laws which God has established and which govern the universe. Terrestrial sympathies and antipathies. Question 386. Could two beings who have already known and loved each other meet again and recognize one another in another corporeal existence? The spirits answer, they could not recognize one another, but they might be attracted to each other. The attraction resulting from the ties of a former existence is often the cause of the most intimate affectional unions of a subsequent existence. It often happens in your world that two persons are drawn together by circumstances which appear to be merely fortuitous, but which are really due to the attraction exercised upon one another by two spirits who are unconsciously seeking each other amidst the crowds by whom they are surrounded. Follow-up question. Would it not be more agreeable for them to recognize each other? I know, right? The spirits answer, not always. The remembrances of past existences would be attended with greater disadvantages than you suppose. After death, they would recognize one another and would then remember the periods they had passed together. And okay, yeah, right, that's true. All right. 387. Is sympathy always the result of anterior acquaintanceship? The spirits say no. Two spirits who are in harmony naturally seek one another without their having been previously acquainted with each other as men. I'm sure they mean as humans. Okay, question 388. May it not be that the meetings which sometimes take place between two persons and which are attributed to chance are really due to the action of some sort of sympathetic relationship? The spirits say, there are among thinking beings orders of relationship which are yet not, let me read that again. There are among thinking beings orders of relationship with which you are not yet acquainted. Magnetism is the pilot of the science that will enable you to understand them at a future period. Question 389. What is the cause of the instinctive repulsion sometimes excited in us by persons whom we see for the first time? Their eyeballs hanging off their face, or sword sticking out their chest, maybe? Sorry. Sorry. Let me answer. Question 389. What is the cause of the instinctive repulsion sometimes excited in us by persons whom we see for the first time? Answer. The latent antipathy of two spirits who divine each other's nature and recognize one another without the need of speaking together. Did they not just say that people don't recognize each other? Obviously we do. We recognize when we see someone who's bad to us in a past life. It's so obvious. Okay. Question 390. Is instinctive antipathy always the sign of an evil nature on the part of one or both of the parties who feel it? And Spirit's answer, two spirits are not necessarily evil because they're not sympathetic, for antipathy may spring from a want of similarity in their way of thinking, but in a proportion as they ascend, these shades of difference are effaced and their antipathy disappears. All right, that's true. That could be true. Question 390. I'm sorry. I don't even know where I'm at right now. Question 391. Does the antipathy of two persons... What am I, drunk? What the hell? Let's start this over, purses. Holy man. Question 391. Does the antipathy of two persons take its first beginning on the part of the better or the worse one of the two? The answer, it may begin simultaneously on the part of both, but in such a case, its causes and effects are different. A bad spirit feels antipathy against whoever is able to judge and unmask him. On seeing such a person for the first time, he knows he'll be disapproved by him. His repulsion changes into hatred or jealousy and inspires him with a desire of doing harm to the object of his antipathy. A good spirit feels repulsion for a bad one because he knows that he will not be understood by him and that they do not share the same sentiments. But strong in his own superiority, he feels neither hatred nor jealousy towards him and contents himself with avoiding and pitying him. Oh, that's like so pointed, isn't it? All right. Forgetfulness of the past. Question 392. Why does the incarnated spirit lose the remembrance of his past? The spirits say, man cannot and may not know everything. God in his wisdom has so ordained. Without the veil which hides certain things from his view, man would be dazzled like one who passes suddenly from darkness to light. Through the forgetfulness of his past, a man is more fully himself. Question 393. How can a man be responsible for deeds and atone for faults of which he has no remembrance? How can he profit by the experience acquired in existences which he has forgotten? We could understand that the tribulations of life might be a lesson for him if he remembered the wrongdoing which has brought them upon him. But if he forgets his former existences, each new existence is, for him, as though it were his first, and thus the work is always to be begun over again. How is this to be reconciled with the justice of God? That's a really good question. The spirit's answer. With each new existence, a spirit becomes more intelligent and better able to distinguish between good and evil. Where would be his freedom if he remembered all of his past? When a spirit re-enters his primitive life, the spirit life, his whole past unrolls itself before him. He sees the faults which he has committed and which are the cause of his suffering, and he also sees what would have prevented him from committing them. He comprehends the justice of the situation which is assigned to him, and then he seeks out the new existence that he may serve to repair the mistakes of the one which has just passed away. He demands new trials analogous to those in which he has failed, or which he considers likely to aid his advancement. And he demands of the spirits who are his superiors to aid him in the new task he's about to undertake. For he knows that the spirit who will be appointed as his guide in that new existence will endeavor to make him cure himself of his faults by giving him a sort of intuition of those he has committed in the past. This intuition is the evil thought, the criminal desire which often come to you and which you instinctively resist, attributing your resistance to the principles you have received from your parents, while it is due in reality to the voice of your conscience. And that voice is reminiscent of your past, warning you not to fall again into the faults you've already committed. He who, having entered upon a new existence, undergoes its trials with fortitude and resists its temptations to wrongdoing, rises in the hierarchy of spirits and takes a higher place when he returns into the normal life. So Kardec says, if we have not an exact remembrance during our corporeal life of what we have been and of the good or evil we have done in our preceding existences, we have the intuition of our past, of which we have a reminiscence in the instinctive tendencies that our conscience, which is the desire we have conceived to avoid committing our past faults in the future, it warns us to resist. Question 394. In worlds more advanced than ours, where the human race is not a prey to our physical wants and infirmities, do men understand that they are better off than we are? Happiness is usually relative. It is felt to be such by comparison with a state that is less happy. As some of those worlds, though better than ours, have not reached perfection, the men by whom they are inhabited must have their own troubles and annoyances. Among us, the rich man, although he has not to endure the physical privations that torture the poor, is nonetheless a prey to tribulations of other kinds that embitter his life. Would I ask whether the inhabitants of those worlds do not consider themselves to be just as unhappy, according to their standard of happiness, as we consider ourselves to be according to ours? And whether they do not, like us, complain of their fate, not having the remembrance of an inferior existence to serve them as a standard of comparison? The spirits say, to this question, two different answers must be given. There are some worlds among those of which you speak, the inhabitants of which have a very clear and exact remembrance of their past existences, and therefore can and do appreciate the happiness which God permits them to enjoy. But there are others of which the inhabitants, though placed, as you say, in better conditions than yours, are nevertheless subject to great annoyances and even to much unhappiness, and who do not appreciate the favorable conditions of their life because they have no remembrance of a state still more unhappy. But if they do rightly appreciate those conditions of men, they appreciate them more justly on their return to the spirit world. So Allan Kardec writes, is there not in the forgetfulness of our past existences, and especially when they've been painful, a striking proof of the wisdom and beneficence of providential arrangements? It is only in worlds of higher advancement, and when the remembrance of our painful existences in the past is nothing more to us than the shadowy remembrance of an unpleasant dream, that those existences are allowed to present themselves to our memory. Would not the painfulness of present suffering in worlds of low degree be greatly aggravated by the remembrance of all the miseries we may have had to undergo in the past? These considerations should lead us to conclude that whatever has been appointed by God is for the best, and that it is not our province to find fault with his works, nor to decide upon the way in which he ought to have regulated the universe. The remembrance of our former personality would be attended in our present existence with many very serious disadvantages. In some cases, it would cause us cruel humiliation. In others, it might incite us to pride and vanity in all cases. It would be a hindrance to the action of our free will. God gives us for our amelioration just what's necessary and sufficient to that end, vis-a-vis the voice of our conscience and our instinctive tendencies. He keeps from us what would be for us a source of injury. Moreover, if we retained the remembrance of our own former personalities and doings, we should also remember those of other people, a kind of knowledge that would necessarily exercise a disastrous influence upon our social relations. Not always having reason to be proud of our past, it's evidently better for us that a veil should be thrown over it. And these considerations are in perfect accordance with the statements of spirits in regard to the existence of higher worlds than ours. In those worlds in which moral excellence reigns, there is nothing painful in the remembrance of our past, and therefore the inhabitants of those happier worlds remember their preceding existence as we remember today and what we did yesterday. As to the sojourns they have made in worlds of lower degree, it is no more to them, as we've already said, than the remembrance of a disagreeable dream. Question 395. Can we obtain any revelations respecting our former existences? Answer: not in all cases. There are, however, many who know who they've been and what they have done. If it were permitted to them to speak openly, they would make curious revelations about the past. Question 396. Some persons believe themselves to have a vague remembrance of an unknown past, which comes before them like the fugitive image of a dream that one vainly endeavors to recall. Is this belief only an illusion? The answer is, it is sometimes real, but it's often an illusion to be guarded against, for it may be merely the effect of an excited imagination. Question 397. Is corporeal existences of a more elevated nature than ours? Is the reminiscence of our anterior existences more exact? The spirits say, yes, in proportion as the body is less material, the spirit incarnated in it remembers them more clearly. The remembrance of the past always is clearer in those who inhabit worlds of a higher order. Excuse me. In question 398, a man's instinctive tendencies being a reflex of his past, does it follow that by studying those tendencies, he can ascertain what are the faults he has formerly committed? The spirits say, undoubtedly he can do so up to a certain point. But he would also have to take account of the improvement which may have been effected in his spirit, and of the resolutions taken by him in the state of erraticity. His present existence may be very much better than his preceding one. Allan asks, might it be worse? That is to say, might a man commit in a subsequent existence faults which he had not committed in the preceding one? And the spirits answer, that depends on his advancement. If he were able or unable to resist temptation, oh my God, here we go again. If he were unable to resist temptation, he might be drawn into new faults as a consequence of the situation chosen by him. But such faults must be considered as indicating a state which is stationary rather than retrograde. For a spirit may advance or remain stationary, but he never goes back. Question 399. The vicissitudes of corporeal life being at once an expiation of the faults of the past and lessons for the future, can we, from the nature of those vicissitudes, infer the character of our preceding existence? The spirits say you can do so very frequently, since the nature of the punishment incurred always corresponds to that of the fault committed. Nevertheless, it would not do to consider this as an absolute rule. The instinctive tendencies furnish a more certain indication, for the trials undergone by a spirit are as much for the future as for the past. And Allan Kardec says, when a spirit has reached the end of the term assigned by Providence to his errant life, he chooses for himself the trials which he determines to undergo in order to hasten his progress. That is to say, the kind of existence which he believes will be most likely to furnish him with the means of advancing, and the trials of this new existence always correspond to the faults which he has to expiate. If he triumphs in this new struggle, he rises in grade. If he succumbs, he has to try again. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, a spirit always possesses free will. It is in virtue of this free will that he chooses when in the spirit state the trials he elects to undergo in the corporeal life, and that he deliberates when in the incarnate state whether he will do or not do, and chooses between good and evil. To deny a man's free will, it says will. Would. To deny a man's free will would be to reduce him to a machine. When a spirit has re-entered corporeal life, he experiences a temporary forgetfulness of his former existences, as though these were hidden from him by a veil. Sometimes, however, he preserves a vague consciousness of them, and they may, under certain circumstances, be revealed to him, but this only occurs as a result of the decision of higher spirits who make that revelation spontaneously for some useful end, and never for the gratification of idle curiosity. A spirit's future existences cannot in any case be revealed to him during their corporeal life, because they will depend on the manner in which he accomplishes his present existence and on his own ulterior choice. Temporary forgetfulness of the faults he has committed is no obstacle to a spirit's improvement, for if he has not a precise remembrance of them, the knowledge he had of them in the state of erraticity, and the desire he then conceived to repair them, guide them intuitively, and inspire him with the intention of resisting the evil tendency. This intention is the voice of his conscience, and is seconded by the spirits who assist him, if he gives heed to the suggestions with which they inspire him. Although a man does not know exactly what may have been his acts in his former existences, he always knows the kind of faults to which he has been guilty, and what has been his ruling characteristic. He has only to study himself, and he will know what he has been, not by what he is, but by his tendencies. The vicissitudes of corporeal life are both an expiation of faults in the past and trials designed to render us better for the future. They purify and elevate, provided we hear them resignedly and unrepiningly. The nature of the vicissitudes and trials that we have to undergo may also enlighten us in regard to what we have been and what we have done, just as we infer the crimes to which a convict has been guilty from the penalty inflicted on him by the law. Thus, he who has sinned through pride will be punished by the humiliations of an inferior position of the self-indulgent and avaricious. Thus, he who has sinned through pride will be punished by the humiliations of an inferior position. There should have been a comma there. The self-indulgent and avaricious by poverty, the hard-hearted By the 70s, he will undergo the tyrant. Why the 70s? I don't get that so much. By slavery, a bad son. By the ingratitude of his children, the idol. Oh, wait, see, this is like really, really, really bad. Let me start this over, this part. So the self-indulgent and avaricious would be born into poverty. The hard-hearted it does say by the 70s he will undergo the tyrant. And by slavery, a bad son. By the ingratitude of his children, the idol. Okay, so basically, if you were a slaver in a past life, you'll have ungrateful children and have a bad son. Weird. All right, and then by subjection to hard and incessant labor. Oh, okay, so those are the possibilities. So, like, if you were, you owned slaves in past life, you will have ungrateful children, you'll have a bad kid, you'll be subject to hard and incessant labor, and so on. I mean, like in the middle of the sentence, they put a period, and then the next letter was small. So, and then in the middle of the sentence, there's a word with a capital. Oh my God, the Virgo in me is just like going. But I mean, you know, it's a free book. What can I can't really complain, can I? All right, that's it for now. Oh my goodness. All right, now next week we'll come back and look at chapter 8, the emancipation of the soul. So and then we're going to go into sleep and dreams and visits between the spirits of living persons. Oh, no, that's good. I like that. God dang it. I know this word. Somnambulism. Whew, that was it. Trance, catalepsy and lethargy. Apparent death. Oh, right. When you are, not narcolepsy, but when you have catalepsy, when you're just sitting there and you're not in a coma, but you're not really moving. Catatonic is what it means. Catalepsy, I guess, that's when you're catatonic. I don't think the word catatonic had been invented yet. All right. Anyway, well, we'll come back next week for that, and tomorrow we'll be back with all new, original, and unique programming, like always. And, well, that's it for now. Speaking of sleep and dreams, have you guys been absolutely having the most intense and very vivid and real feeling dreams? I know since we've anchored into the fifth dimension, my God, my dreams have been, they've taken a whole new dimension on, actually. It's been really, really strange. My near twin keeps writing me and goes, do you remember us being in school last night? We were flying. How come we can't fly in real life? It's so annoying. You know, stuff like that. It's not exactly his exact words, but I'm like, yeah, exactly. I could float. I could fly. And I do remember in my dreams, I'm like learning how to create fire in my hand. It's like we're in Harry Potter's school. You know, it's like we're in Hogwarts, but in heaven. It's very weird. And, but he and I are we're having the same dreams together. Like when I go on vacation, it's when I'm with my friend Phil, and and he found me through my show, and he's like, "Oh my God, you're the one! I recognize your voice," because I keep dreaming that we're on vacation. We're always on vacation together, taking these amazing, awesome journeys as friends. You know, and it's pretty cool. And now I'm some of the people I've been dreaming of for years and years and years are finally coming into my energy field. Finally. And I'm meeting them in the real world, and it's like, oh, remember that kind of dream? You know, like my near twin and I are always going to like the symphony together, and I just found out that he plays like not in the symphony, but he plays music. He plays the piccolo and he plays, flute and actually a lot of different instruments. And so it's funny that in my dream that we're always dressed to the nines and we're always like meeting up and going to the opera together or the symphony together. And then we always like hug each other goodbye and get in separate cars and go home. And I've been having these dreams for years. And he's like, yeah, I do remember this. And I'm always he says he's wearing a crushed blue velvet suit. I'm like, I don't remember that. I always see you in a black tuxedo, but I wonder if we don't see each other or see other people the way we want to see them, even in dreams. So that's food for thought right there. Anyway, well, that's it, guys. I'm really going to go now this time. I love you guys. Thank you for being on this spiritual journey with me. I'm glad we all ascended together. This is super exciting. More and more and more to come, just in the world and from me and the show. And the fifth dimension is going to reveal more and more. I mean, we have a lot to look forward to be honest, a lot in the next few months, in the next years. And I mean, in a few years, we're going to have the Pleiadians are going to come. I just know it. I feel it. Maybe the Lyrans. I hope they come. And show themselves, reveal themselves physically. It'll be so cool to see their cat heads. They're the coolest. Anyway, well, that's it, guys. I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time, guys, peace. Do you ever wish you could look into the next chapter in your book of life and see what's coming next? What does the universe have in store for you? I can help you with that. I will give you a Celtic cross reading, which is 10 cards, or you can ask me 3 questions, and I use 3 cards per question. So that's 9 cards, or I can channel your higher guidance, or maybe God directly for you. Maybe you want to talk to your dear departed Aunt Edna, because maybe you have a few questions and she was the smartest person you knew. If your deceased relatives are available or your ascended masters, I can channel them for you personally. Let me have 1 hour to show you the future in your next chapter of your book of life. Readings are $75, and it takes me an hour to an hour and a half to complete. And for this price, you will also be hooked up to the healing grid around the planet for free, which means yours truly, me, I will be giving you Reiki 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. All you have to do is let me know. metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com, and we will explore your future together.